How's it going, everybody? This is Andre D. Harrison, and I want to thank you for tuning in to our very first Dad Talk web series. We will be doing Dad Talk every first and third Tuesday of the month. With Dad Talk, we will be talking about fatherhood, family, faith, and mentoring. Our hope is to encourage the fathers out there to be the best dads that they can be. But in return, through this, I hope to be the best father I can be. And I have my middle son, I call him my clone, Nathaniel. He's sitting right next
Hello.
to me. He's wanted to come and say hi to everybody, and then probably go in his room and either do some homework, play with his brothers. My youngest was here too, and my oldest is somewhere around. They'll probably come sometime within the show just to say hi. But uh, yeah, this is my clone. Yeah, he could go for a haircut, but he likes his hair like this,
You like
so
my hair like
he
this?
does. But yeah, I do again. Thank you. So the I have an organization called the Roll Call. It's about fatherhood involvement, fatherhood engagement, and mentoring, and we try to equip men to be better dads with various resources and things like that. So if you would like more information about the Roll Call and about myself, you can go to www.therollcall. That's ROLE, not ROLL. That's the Roll Call, ROLE.org. For more information about the roll call and what we do. And I'm also an author of a book called From a Fatherless Father to His Sons. Here's the book here. It's a book about the lesson that I learned growing up without my dad that I teach to my sons and other young men that I mentor. He's read it a couple of times. I don't know if he read it all the way through, but he's picked up the book and read a couple of chapters. I'm trying to get him to read it all the way through. But this is stuff that I tell him every day anyway, so he knows it. But yeah, I want him to sit and read it and stuff so I can take pictures and post it on social media because that's good marketing and branding and stuff if your son is reading your own book. Yeah. So yeah, do you want to go or you want to stay here the whole time? Yeah, he's gonna go.
Goodbye.
Yeah, he's gonna go. But we have a great show today. This is the first one that we're doing. It's the premiere. It's also a pilot, but this is something that we're gonna keep doing. Our goal is just to equip and encourage dads, period. And not just dads, single mothers also, because single moms are forced to play a position where they're supposed to be dad and mom at the same time. Um, and it's not meant to be that way, but many cases it is. So with the roll call, we're there to help support the single moms also and try to connect their children with a responsible male role model to help father that child. I know what it feels like to grow up without a father, and it's tough. And being a single mom, as I am right now, a single dad, I understand the challenges it entails with raising children on your own. So you don't have to do it on your own. There's many resources out there like the roll call, and there's a resource out there like Fathers and Families Coalition of America, where today we have on the show Dad Talk James Rodriguez, who's the president and founder of um, Fathers and Families Coalition of America. So I want to introduce everybody to James right now. James, how's it going?
Everything's going good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, and I'm glad that you had a chance to join us for the very first Dad Talk series. I
Mhm.
appreciate your presence, and I appreciate all the work that you do with fathers, and not just fathers, but families in general. So I really appreciate everything that you do. Would you mind telling everybody a little bit more about who you are, your organization, and what drives you to do what you do?
Well, I appreciate that. And hopefully you can hear me well and see me well. I injured my right eye, so it's hard for me to see you too clear. But uh, my name is James Rodriguez. I've been blessed and fortunate serving different roles, I suppose, professionally over the last 30 years now. I started off in the military, and I want to bring that forward because I left home at 17. Um, didn't have a really strong role models as far as a father passed away when I was 11, and also left my mother when I was 6. And I could have went to college. Could have had a very productive athletic career in football or baseball. I was very talented, but didn't have direction, so I went in the military, joined the army. became a combat medic, special forces, and later on went into the Air Force. Got married really young. I guess also a product of non-guidance, and kind of dragged through the first 2 decades of my life, uh, going through things alone, or trying to learn sometimes through failure, which is fine because that's how we succeed sometimes. But um, somewhere around 1993, 94, left active duty military because my children couldn't take an assignment with me. I was a single father, and my first job was with Head Start, and in a rural county, wrote several programs. Um, for the Head Start program, I was their director or family service specialist, and then I ended up becoming a director. And one of them was a TANF Young Father grant to work with 16 to 26-year-old young fathers, and that has really developed into an unknown destiny and purpose that, when you mentioned faith, that God wanted me to walk through, go through some of the fires that I've created for myself, but also that have been put around me, but always being able to go through it and not get burned. And so now, that was almost 20 years ago that we wrote a grant in 1996. It is almost 20 years.
Wow.
And we started as a statewide initiative, and then became more functional and formal 16 years ago when we did our first conference to help out others how to improve services for children and families. And now, 16 years later, we became our own nonprofit. Then we were asked to take a role of leadership and develop affiliates and advocate. Even today, we had the Commissioner for U.S. Office of Child Support, Vicki Tereski, doing a briefing on the regulation changes and rule regulations that are pending for child support nationally. And we've done a lot of different things. We've been able to do trainings in, I think, 12 tribal nations, including Alaska tribal nations, Africa, Australia, Puerto Rico, and 16 national conferences and then regional conferences. And you've come out to a smaller regional conference at Howard University. And I think collectively we've provided support for 500 U.S. cities and 90 nations where people were looking for information and resources. And so they came to us. And even this about 3 months ago, we had a gentleman who flew all the way from Kyiv, Ukraine, to come spend some time with me to develop fatherhood programs in Ukraine, and a gentleman from South Africa as well asked to become one of our affiliates. So now we're starting to grow more national. So what we planted a seed in the ground in rural Arizona became really an international.
Yeah, and I also had a chance to be a part of one of the presenters at the Puerto Rico conference, and I have a chance to present this February at the national Fathers and Families of Coalition of America, the national conference in Los Angeles this coming February. Can you tell everybody a little bit about that?
Well, I don't want to say that one program is better than the others, because then people who invested their time and resources and talents in previous may say, well, what was wrong with ours? But I really do believe collectively where we're at this time in our nation and internationally, this has got to be our best. And we sold out our hotel room obligation. We're closing in fast, probably our highest attended conference.
I almost missed that hotel. I had to call. I called up and said, "Well, you're lucky you called when you did, because I almost missed the window."
Yeah, well, hopefully you and others do as well. Thanks for telling me that, Bear. Ask them to open up the room block. But we've got a very intense program from Tuesday through Friday, February 17th. Shameless plug, that's my birthday. So I'm expecting everyone to come with a gift, $25 or more. Um, and through the 20th, but everything that we're doing, even today, I got the U.S. Office of Child Support, so they want to do a special listen session where we can go back and give feedback to Congress
Mm.
on how there could be possible changes in child support. Well, that's powerful because that gives people a voice. And, we're going to have other sessions as well, not just on fatherhood, but child welfare, early childhood development, education, criminal justice, the erosion of the criminal justice system. Now, I remember speaking with you, these were planned before we had controversy in Staten Island or Ferguson, Missouri. Those things have been happening for decades. It's just through social media and alerts we become more aware of it.
Yeah.
But the system is really is based on antiquated laws and how we would handle our own citizens and residents of this nation. And so we're going to have a strong panel on that, strong panel on racial and ethnic disproportionality in the child welfare system, and others as well. So I think we've got a strong conference, 80 faculty, 60 plus workshops, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun too. We're going to honor couples and fathers, and I want to make sure I mention this, and leaders. The widow of our Father of the Year award is called the Honorable Stanley Cederman, and his wife on his tombstone put a righteous and upright man. And
Mm.
she asked for us to only ensure that righteous and upright men would get the award. It didn't matter how they started as a father. And that was very touching. She's well into her 80s. And we got 5 fathers. We had 4. We added another one. We have 1 Father of the Year and then 4 honorees. 1 Father of the Year is Serafin Serrano, and just an outstanding story. And we interviewed him, and he said, "You can do better than me." That's all he kept saying. "You could be better than me." But he went through the system, the child welfare system, went to juvenile corrections, probably could have killed someone, but now is saving the lives of young fathers in Southern California.
Wow.
We've got couples of excellence, the Dr. Jean and Sarah Barbara Blue Award. And we're looking at couples. We got 1 couple that's been married 71 years
Wow.
that we're going to recognize. 35 years, 40, 50, but 71 years, that's a lifetime.
Yeah.
And one of our special guests is Kenny Gamble from Gamble and Huff, an old R&B, really strong, powerful couple, Kenny and Fatimina Gamble from Philadelphia. But the other one is Gladys Knight. And I'm excited about Gladys Knight coming. And then after Gladys Knight, we're going to honor our Leader of the Year award in Josefa Salinas. So we've got entertainment, we've got meet the authors, time for people to share their talents with other people. We've got workshops, and we have some fun. And so I think it's going to be a great event, meaningful, powerful, to inspire people. I pray that my physical vision comes back in my right eye. But what I'm more important about is that people's vision, that they don't use their eyes, is expanded, and that they can see that they can do great things, not just in their community, neighborhood, state, but nationally. And that's one of my goals for this, and also internationally. We're going to have a live stream component. People can virtually participate in the conference. And we have 2 outstanding certificate programs. And I hope they're not on the day that you're presenting, but the one on Wednesday is just phenomenal. And if you haven't registered for that one, I've been in a lot of programs in my life and trainings, but this is probably my top 3 training programs I've ever experienced. And Dr. McCrae is going to be giving that. So we've got a lot, and I'm excited about it. I'm glad that you're coming as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a great conference. And I did want to, Tiffany just started tuning in. Tiffany is a good friend of mine who we worked together in the past. We're just talking about Fathers and Families Coalition of America and what James does and the conferences that he's doing. There's a couple of things that you spoke about. I have a friend who's going through something now with child support, and he's forced to pay child support. And not only is he forced to pay child support, but because his children's mother doesn't like him too much, she's making it difficult for him to see his child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so much to the point where now when he sees his child, it's supervised visits, and every time he wants to see his child, it's $50 he's got to pay just to see his child.
Mm.
So I guess he's got to pay. So I think um I get some kind of reform, and I think this is along the lines of what Fathers and Families Coalition of America does. Am I right?
Well, we don't do direct service, but something like that should be put to our attention that
Hmm.
uh, perhaps when they do the changes in child support, that they examine. Now, because I believe that if you're a healthy mother, healthy father,
Hmm.
you should just get shared joint parenting, period.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's a mother, sometimes it's a father that's just not healthy at that moment,
Hmm.
and they're not good for the children.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that probably is something that uh, we change. So
Yeah.
I don't think that allegations, I think it has to be founded, should prevent you from having uh, intimate time with your children, to spend, to go do whatever. It could be simple things like going for a bike ride or movie time, or um, heck, even my daughter. We went horseback riding, and my daughter was laughing because the horse. My daughter's 25, and she said, "Dad, you held on like that horse was not going to buck you." The horse stood up on his hind feet all the way up.
Yeah.
And she said, "You took it." And I'm like, "That horse wasn't going to have me get thrown on the ground." So, that little memory you
Hmm.
can't get from supervised visitation.
Yeah.
And unless it's really called for, that should not be something that we promote. Also, just like children going to visit a parent that's incarcerated, it teaches them unhealthy boundaries,
Hmm.
uh, teaches them that you got to be, met, I don't know, it reduces trust,
Mm.
safety, and other issues. So, I ask you and others to, write to us and say, when you respond back to Congress or U.S. Office of Child Support, you know, raise these points, but not just on emotion. It can't be emotion based. It has to be something
Yeah.
that we can go back statistically and or through research or something to that effect and say this is the reason why it's not in the best interest of children. Number one, then mother and father. Number two.
Yeah. Very true. Now, I wrote my book From a Father's Father to His Sons, and it's uh,
Which I
mainly
read.
because. Thank you so much. And if you didn't like it, don't say anything, okay? If you didn't like it, don't say anything. Just
On
keep it
page
to yourself.
5, there's no, I'm not going to.
Hey,
It was
hey.
a good book. It was a good book.
Thank you. But um, what motivated me to write the book was having three kids and three sons that I was raising on my own at the time, and not having a father in my life to help me become a man. So I found it very ironic that here I am raising three boys to become men, and I didn't have a man to show me how to become a man. So my
Mhm.
motivation behind writing the book, my motivation behind starting the organization, the Roll Call, was to eradicate fatherlessness. And if not by connecting fathers with their children, and that's the main focus of it, by connecting a child with a responsible male role model, because we believe with the roll call that every child deserves a father. What was your motivation to start Fathers and Family Coalition of America?
I want to go back to something though, for anyone that is watching this or if it's taped later on. Uh, Andre did something that a lot of people have. They have a vision or an aspiration. Myself, many times I've wanted to write a book, an anthology, wanted to write an anthology of men of color.
Mm.
They didn't have to be famous, but that have come out of something, but have made something for themselves.
Yeah.
They've come out of uh, opportunities where society said you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
But so I want to applaud you for whether anyone likes your book or not. It's irrelevant. The fact is that you did it and you finished it, and you need to applaud yourself in your private time, your quiet time, that God gave you a vision and you saw it through and you were obedient. Because a lot of people get a lot of ideas, a lot of visions and dreams, and they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
So I think you need to take some time. In terms of what made me start Fathers and Families Coalition America, I want to say, maybe some heartbreak story from my past. Uh, I didn't grow up in a horrible, horrible situation, but I didn't start life off right.
Yeah.
Uh, I was not until the last maybe couple of years would I ever tell anyone I was a product of the child welfare system at 13 months. So
Mm.
you can probably guess, what does a 13-month-old boy do to be physically abused by his father, to be put in the system, and because they said my mother was psychologically unfit to protect, which is not true, that I had to be in the system.
Mm.
Or maybe it's because my father left my mom. My father was one of the things that I always prayed, help me not to be the father that my father is. And I'm not perfect, but also I asked God to, I should have maybe when I was a young kid asked God to help me be a better man.
Mm.
And it took me some time to finally growing into be a better man, maybe about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So it wasn't that desire to be a better man. It wasn't desire to help children in child welfare system. And I actually was a big time gang member as well. At 12, I was already carrying around a gun. Uh, all that comes from low self-esteem, rejection, fear, doubt, and it carries through until you start becoming aware of it and starting to do that journey is what God had me to go through so that I could be more sensitive to men and women and systems and fight and advocate for better services. When I first started Fathers and Families Coalition, I just felt like, why can't we get this $1 million grant? Why is it going to be
Yeah.
University of Arizona? Why can't we have it? And I think it was that desire to be a champion for right,
Mm-hmm.
and that sometimes people make wrong look right,
Yeah.
and then sometimes people make right look wrong, and I wasn't going to do that. And that's what really drove me, because we wrote maybe 3, 4 grants in a row. A colleague of mine, I was the main author on them, and it felt like everything I wrote got funded. Literally, in one year, I must have got 6 grants, all of them over $1 million funded. And so I thought that Andre's organization, other organizations, we'd want to work together in a collaborative mode, in a team mode. I was naive because I didn't know that dollars and resources and prestige drove some of the earlier partnerships because they were driven by resources. That's not what's ever driven me. It's never been about the money. It doesn't matter um, if I've made as much as several, like maybe 300,000, $400,000, but I've been as happy making 20,000. So it's
Mm-hmm.
never been that. It's never been about going in front of a senator, a congressman, vice president of the United States, even President Clinton. And I'm prayerful, and I'm going to say it right here, right now. We invited President Clinton to our conference in Los Angeles, and I know his chief of staff hand carried him the letter for him to come to LA, and I believe that he needs to be there, and I think that he will be in my spirit. And I think that's what drives me professionally
Yeah.
more, that I see these things. I believe that these things can happen. And I believe that's what's carried me to keep Fathers and Families Coalition America. Plus, I've always wanted the roll call or other people to do well, because I figured if you do well, then I do well.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize what I was walking around with is what they call a kingdom principle. But that had been one of my value sets for maybe the last 18, 20 years, that I'd rather us all share together. I used to joke, I'd rather have a piece of the pie than no pie at all, because
Mhm.
I try to go get a pie for myself.
Yeah,
But not everyone's like that, and that's fine.
yeah,
But that's what drove me. And now what's driving me in this season that I'm in, because I realized that I'm about to shift and go more into an elder season, and that's fine. But I also realized that uh, not that many people do 20 years of anything. I've
hmm
done 20 years in the military, and now I'm going to be finishing 20 years of this. And I know that this is my last couple seasons doing this. But I really would like more research, more policy to strengthen families. And I like really people to look at what are you doing to improve outcomes for children, knowing that children need both a mother and a father. And that's going to be one of my biggest push, to get rid of this nonsense about a division. And I think we divided ourselves much. Let's
hmm
get rid of this racial and ethnic disproportionality. It's upsetting to keep seeing statistically, time after time after time, young Latino and young black males specifically being left behind because of who they are, where they're born, and not the character of the person inside of them, or even the opportunity. It's just disheartening. And you're an educator, that people are building prisons based upon third grade reading achievement levels, and that if I don't do well in the third grade, that you are projecting my destiny. My destiny's early pregnancy, prison, poverty. So why should we as adults keep saying that this is okay? I believe everyone is 30 and over, you are doing, and that's including me. And I know, Andre, you're only 29, but that's doing a discredit to our children and our future. And I think we're going to have a bad legacy that we're going to leave. And that's what's driving me these latter seasons, really to focus on the role of strengthening families. This year, we changed the title of our conference to the National Families and Fathers Conference. It was Fatherhood and Families, but that was out of order,
mm,
because fatherhood is what you do, not who you are.
yeah,
And I want people to realize family, children is in the center. You can't be a father unless you have a child, and a father could be a single father and have a home and be a family. That
mm,
is a family. It could be a single mother, or it could be co-parenting or co-residing. So, those are some things I want us to work on and embark on, and I think that's what's driving me now. But it never was about the money. We do need money to survive and to do business. It's not about lavish expenses. It's not about traveling, but it is about purpose. And I think all of us, and I think just my perspective for Andre Harris, his purpose is to have men look at their role, and are you going to stand up to the call that God gave you, which is, if you have children, be responsible for them.
yeah,
And hopefully you don't become responsible at 60, 70 years of age when you're on death's bed.
yeah. I think, and that's to me, that's a very important thing because I think, um, people think that they have, I guess, time to be responsible with when it comes to certain things. I, I, I am so family driven and family oriented. So when, and to me, when I see my kids, I can't fathom not being there to see them grow up. All right, no matter how many times I got to go to the school and talk to the teachers, um, how many times I gotta tell them stop fighting, go to bed, do your homework, clean their face. Go clean your face because you got stuff all over your face. you know, but I know, Papa. And I think it's I appreciate organizations like yourself who do the lead work, do the research, and seek to change um, policies to help families. And the whole thing that you're doing with this conference and even changing the name around shows that the priorities are in the right place. Um, I do want to shift gears a little bit, if you don't mind. Earlier, you mentioned about certain disadvantages, and then you also mentioned about what was going on in Ferguson and what was happening out here in Staten Island with the deaths of Michael Brown and Eric Garner. And I got to be honest, I can't speak too much about what's happening with Michael Brown. I can't say how I feel about the situation with Eric Garner. Um, I think like our whole focus with the road call is that we believe every child deserves a father. But sometimes I feel like his death has been overlooked by some people because he may have resisted arrest. But my view in it or on it has been about his kids and his grandkids, and even you're familiar with what's happening with the police officers out here who have turned their backs on Mayor De Blasio because they feel like the mayor really wasn't supportive of the
Yeah.
department at that time. I'm going to ask your opinion on that, and then I guess I'll share how I felt a little bit about it. But what's your take on that?
Well, when I was in the military, I was in law enforcement,
Mhm.
and you're taught to what they call double tap. Double tap means you shoot twice. First of all, you assess, shoot twice, shoot again,
Mhm.
and you go through a process, making sure and ensuring that no one in the public could be at harm from you discharging your weapon. So in St. Louis, I had a problem because hypothetically, let's just say there's two sides to every story. He could have gotten in his patrol car, asked for backup,
Mhm.
and that would have been that. Maybe the kid did steal cigarettes, who knows? Maybe he did assault a police officer. I don't know, I wasn't there.
Mhm.
But I know one thing, that kid wouldn't be dead.
Yeah.
The gentleman in Staten Island, I think we were together in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
but that really troubled me because another thing that you're taught is appropriate restraint. But Andre, this has been happening since a man came out with a rake in Detroit.
Yeah.
And this has been happening since a young kid who his crime, I guess, was being Mexican American, looking like a gang member. And in his hand, he had Wrigley chewing gum with the silver piece showing only, and was shot to death. I think 56 rounds went in his body.
Wow.
That was decades ago. And whenever you see more than 15 rounds, that means someone went all the way through one clip and went into another one, and that means they really did overload. Whenever you hear like 30, 40, that means that multiple people did it. And so I think there needs to be restraint on law enforcement, but also know that law enforcement is here to protect us.
Mhm.
But in this case, I feel that just it's a travesty. I do not believe in retaliation because a police officer took the life, or police officers took a life of another individual. That
Mhm.
group, members of that same group, need to go back and take police officer life
I agree.
because that makes no rational sense. That's what they call tit for tat, and also uh, you just ignite the potential. The gentleman who killed those two police officers in New York, I also felt like he took an easy way out of killing himself.
Yeah.
So it had nothing to do about police officers. It had to do with his mental or emotional well-being, and it was not there. So those two things have nothing to do with each other. And I feel bad that the mayor did not get the honor and respect because, uh, we're supposed to be, and police officers and law enforcement are taught honor, duty, and you're supposed to put country, God, and yourself dead last. And that meant those police officers who turned their back were putting themselves first.
Mhm.
Because part of their responsibility, whether they like it or not, is to adhere to those who are above them in command. And last time I checked, the mayor is the top dog in the city of New York.
Yeah.
He's the top commander. He's the chief and commander for New York. Right or wrong, he's the elected leader. They did not have to do that. That was disrespectful also to those who may have agreed with him, maybe even family members who were Puerto Rican American, Dominican American, who had been maybe felt uncomfortable with previous law enforcement, and they took a death and made it a mockery in a funeral. That's one thing I disregard, deep disregard to the those who did that, because they were selfish. Instead of being there for the widow, instead of there being there for those two boys, they took it a position that I felt was very selfish, self-centered, and as far as I'm concerned, they had no right, no justice to do that. Do that some other time, do that in some other forum, but not that forum. The other incidents that happened around the country, the summer seemed to be chaotic, which is the growing use of social media. For an example, the lady in Foothill District of Los Angeles was completely handcuffed, and then she was thrown into the ground. What did she do? There's nothing she could do. She wasn't a risk. So we've got all these different things, which shows that there needs to be different type of training for law enforcement. I think that this is one of the reasons why we need more fathers involved. We need fathers to teach you to walk like a man. Hold your hands with honor and integrity. I got a good friend of mine. He's a retired police officer, and he's African American. He said, James, I always teach my sons, if a police officer comes, hands up. This was before Ferguson. So that sounds sad that you would even have to teach your sons, get your hands up. But we gotta watch ourselves, because I know years ago I used to get pulled over by this police officer, Tovar, and his partner Johnson, and I used to feel like I was being harassed, just me and my friends, because we're Puerto Rican, Mexican, and black. Yeah, okay, maybe perhaps we look like we were gang members, but you got to stop us every single time, and literally put us in a police car, take us to the police station for a parent or someone to come pick us up. And thank God, I think only one time we had something that they could have got us with, a weapon. I'll never forget that police officer. His name was Frank Tovar. He said, listen, I don't want you kids staying in the projects for another generation. I'm going to keep arresting you. I'm going to keep doing this every single day so that you guys know that I need you to grow up to be real men. I want you to make something of yourselves. Now, that's police harassment. But he was trying to show us the good side, that he didn't want us to go into jail. He didn't want us to be gang banging. He didn't want us in drugs. He didn't want us to have a criminal lifestyle. Not everyone listened to that. And I'm one of only 5 people still alive. All my other 4 friends, all of them, went to prison or dead before age 30. And I'm sorry, that's too premature. And I think that's the only reason why I believe law enforcement needs to change. They need to become more preventive instead of being reactive. I think the police officer, I'm going to just be very, very frank with the Staten Island. I believe that police officer should have been charged with murder. Maybe he didn't intend to commit murder. And I believe everyone on that scene, when they didn't do nothing and just let a man, because he said, when you go look on the video, I believe that they all should be charged with manslaughter because they did nothing. And there's something called the Samaritan law. Samaritan law requires, if you know how to do life-saving procedures, that you go ahead and establish it. And if you don't do it, you could be charged as neglect or manslaughter. And I hope that the family and the widow sues every single one of them, including the paramedics, including the lady who showed up, he was out, and they didn't do nothing for him. And the reason why he died, maybe he was overweight. Maybe he couldn't. His heart was going to have a heart attack the very next day. But they surely didn't do anything to increase his ability to possibly live. And they know they cannot walk away with that. And that's the one thing on that video which is different than Ferguson. Ferguson, there's no video. It's he say, she say. But this is very, very clear, an illegal chokehold, multiple people. He had already he had asked no one to touch him, which that doesn't count. But you can ask the police, don't touch me. But that's you're going to get. He could have maybe turned around, but after a certain point, he gave in. They didn't. and they were too aggressive. And I don't know if that's what your viewpoint is, but that's the problem with our criminal justice system. And the other problem was our criminal justice system needs to be addressed from the top to the bottom, from prevention all the way to incarceration
Yeah.
and the sentencing things that we hand down, because it sends a bad message to young boys and young girls in America. And I'm glad that the community of New York very proud of all their protesting, very proud of the fact that they tried to protest on New Year's Eve night. And I hope that a lot of Americans are proud that, regardless of your background, that they use their voice to advocate for positive change.
Yeah.
And that's just how I feel. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah. Well, I think uh I'll say this, and then we'll switch gears a little bit. Um, Mayor De Blasio's the gripe that a lot of the officers have with Mayor De Blasio is that he came on the camera and he spoke about the possibility of, well, he spoke about talking to his son about the possibility of him being racially profiled by police.
Mhm.
And many people, not just police, but people thought that that was out of line. If he did say it, he should have not said it in public. But it leads me to ask, when does a man, even a mayor, even the president, stop being a father and stop being honest about what it means to be a dad? You can't. I find it very disturbing that um, all that NYPD as a whole would um, dishonor the mayor because he took a stance to stand by his family first. And he didn't say anything really to discredit the NYPD or the police. He just said, "Son, you may have there may be a possibility of you being racially profiled. So just be careful." That's a conversation that I had to have with my sons. Even my mother, who is a retired captain in New York City Corrections, told me whenever I get stopped by the police, take the key take the key out of the ignition, put the key on the dashboard, keep your hands at 10 and 2. All right. Don't do anything until the police direct you to do it. All right.
Mhm.
If you don't have your if you got to reach for your glove compartment to get your stuff, you say, "Mr. Officer, my registration's in the glove compartment. May I reach for it?" Right.
Mhm.
Reach for it very slowly and let him see it. So my mother had to talk to me about that too. But I thought it was very sad that a man who happens to be in a position of a mayor can't be honest with everybody about the conversation he had to have with his son, which
Mhm.
is a real
I
conversation.
don't think a lot of people. Um, there's a gentleman. His name is James Orlando Rodriguez, and James Orlando Rodriguez is born the same day as me.
And he got the same name.
Similar, yeah. I am okay. I'm not 5'11" anymore, but I'm surely not 5'4". I don't have a parakeet tattoo on my left leg, and I've been on the ground 4 times because this guy's wanted for double murder in the state of Delaware. I hope they caught him. I hope he's gone. Whatever. Um, but I remember one time getting pulled over with my daughter. Uh, she must have been about 2 because she was still in a child seat, maybe almost 3. I lowered all my windows, kept them down, because not only did I see one patrol car, I saw 6. And you know what? They had their guns drawn, and I feel like that was uncalled for. Because I was in the military at the time, on my dashboard I threw my plaque, my badge,
Mhm.
and I also put my military ID. And the gentleman who had me said, "Where did I get this car from? Why do I have Department of Defense pass to get in and out of installations?" And I said, "Because I earned it. I'm not the guy that you're looking for." "Well, how do you know?" And I said, "Because I've been on the ground before for him."
Mhm.
So what if they were reactive in ignorance?
Mhm.
Or what if I was him? I understand they got to save lives, but it's just sad that we've got to live like that. And it goes back to our country. Our country, one of the more violent nations in the world.
Yeah.
We think we're a progressive country, but we lead the world in unmarried households,
Hmm.
fatherlessness.
Well, do you
And
know that? Do you
I
know?
bet you Mayor de Blasio, if he wasn't the mayor of New York, I've seen his son. His son's a tall, young brother.
Yeah.
You think that he's not going to be profiled? Well, because he's half and half? No.
Yeah.
America won't see him as, because the way I always feel about it is as much as President Obama is black, he's also white.
Hmm. Yeah.
And actually, he was raised by his white family, not his African family, and in very diverse settings as well.
Yeah.
And you could tell that he had a lot of love for his grandparents, a lot of love.
Hmm.
And they were from like what, Kansas or something.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes we get caught up on the color or hue of the skin or what's the difference.
Yeah.
You think that they saw their grandson, Barack Hussein Obama, anything other than their grandson
Yeah.
when he became president or was about to become president? You think that they weren't just as happy?
Yeah.
I think that when he goes to Hawaii, he probably the one place that he feels like he can breathe. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think the mayor has the right to be distressed and say, hey, what about my son?
Yeah.
What about my son? And any police officer in America who believes, if they, especially if their son or daughter, in particular their son, and they're African American or Latino, and they think that their son or daughter going into another community might not be profiled, they're ridiculous
Hmm.
because it happens.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but it could.
Yeah. I agree. Now, we have a few minutes left, and I do want to talk a little bit about um, fatherlessness and what you feel it does to young people and what it does to our communities. So, what's your take on how fatherlessness impacts teenagers, children, and our communities?
Um, well, I don't know. I've got it from different perspectives as a father, as a son. Uh, professionally, I guess I see things differently through different lenses. I do believe that uh, sometimes you can overcome being fatherlessness. Not having a father doesn't mean you're not going to make it. It's
Yeah.
just the probability of you having like I told you before, I had to go through all these fires. Some I created, some other people created, or just because of the environment I grew up in. Um, but allows you to avoid getting burned,
Mm.
or maybe allows you to avoid pitfalls. The other thing, uh, it's hard raising children by yourself.
Yeah.
I've done that, and I'll never forget my older children, Antonio and Amber. My son, I was bottle training him and potty training my daughter, and there were no resources for single fathers, and I made mistakes after mistake. But everyone always thought, like, what did I do to the mom? Why isn't the mom around? Like, basically, did I have her removed from where we lived? And I just felt like there really wasn't a lot of openness. But things are changing. The impacts of fatherlessness is happening to motherlessness.
Hmm.
There's a growing number of single-parent households headed by fathers only. A
Hmm.
recent study in Los Angeles said that 37% of single-parent households headed by fathers live in poverty
Mm.
or below poverty, 51% for mothers. I know that's 14% differences, but that's a lot. That's a lot of poverty for single-parent households. So,
Yeah.
and that I believe, if not mistaken, more than 3 million households in America with a child under 18 are being raised by a father alone. And a lot of them are having what used to be this negative stereotype of deadbeat dad or absent fathers is happening with mothers. They're walking away from their responsibilities, and a lot of younger men, boys even, are wanting to be responsible fathers.
Yeah.
So I hope what doesn't happen is the negative impacts of fatherlessness also on children without a mom in their life, a healthy
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
And maybe you're aware of them, especially as a teacher. You should be aware because probably sometimes you've been the only father figure for a child.
Mhm.
that they may have ever had until they come into your classroom. And it's very daunting to see young children who don't have a father present in their life. I think there's a natural desire to have both.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of self-esteem and doubt and rejection when you don't have both. Even if you create a child and someone else raises that child, that's better than no one else
Yeah.
or having no father figure at all. I remember going into Head Start classrooms and all the little kids would just grab my feet, or even a couple early in December, uh, there were a lot of fathers at my daughter's school that were there. I was very, very proud to see so many men there, but it was a jogathon, and there are men who are 20 years younger than me, and guess who was the only father running around a track filled with rain and mud? Me.
Yeah.
And so there's one thing about standing and barbecuing and cooking hot dogs, and another thing about get out there and run.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
out there and run your race. Timothy said, run your race hard. How can you be a real man if you don't even want to get in the race to run?
Yeah.
And you can't do it by standing by the sidelines and watching some other man run your race hard.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that, you start off the program saying you're going to use this platform to talk about faith. So why aren't we? You know,
Yeah.
our Father in heaven never left us, so why are
Yeah.
fathers
He's
in
the
your
ultimate
children?
example. Yeah. The ultimate example.
Yeah.
That's good. So we're going to close in a little bit. Just in closing, if you don't mind, just telling them a little bit about the conference again and how they can sign up if they choose to go.
Okay, I took that shameless time to take a little drink of water. Uh, but this conference is going to be phenomenal. February 17th through the 20th. Did I mention it's my birthday on the 17th and to bring a
Yeah,
gift?
yeah. You not only did you mention it, you asked everybody to bring a gift of $25 or more. So
Oh my God, that's
yeah,
bougie. But since you mentioned 25 or more, I appreciate it. I'll take gift cards. No, no love offering. I'm not going to go to IRS. But it's going to be at the Sheridan Gateway, LAX in Los Angeles, 8 miles from the Pacific Ocean. A phenomenal group of talented men and women from all over the country, different nations as well. It's really impactful. If you get a chance, go to Fathers and Families Coalition.org. Go look it up or Google Fathers and Families Coalition of America. It'll pop up. I think we're going to have a very strong, appealing conference for parents, uh, grassroots volunteers, faith-based, different levels. I really want to try to use, we're going to talk about my brother's keeper, which I think was a mistake, because what about young girls?
yeah,
So we flipped it around and called it my brother's keeper, what about my sister?
yeah,
And we're going to have products that talk about Race to the Top Equity, which is a program platform, that initiative that I don't know why they didn't put more funding into it, but looking at how to improve outcomes, and particularly for young children of color in the educational system. We just partnered with National Parent Teachers Association. Their president, retired Lieutenant Colonel Arthur Thornton, he's going to come out and present. We've got researchers. I feel very humbled. Dr. Ronald Mincy, he's a Maurice Russell professor at the University, Columbia University School of Social Work. We've got the president of the Black Sociologists of America, Dr. Obie Clayton, out of Clark Atlanta University, and then the president of Mental Health America, and probably the top black psychiatrist in the nation or even the world, Dr. Ed Lawson. They're going to do a session on the reluctance of ethnic and minority groups in systems. So we've got different things that we're going to cover. We're going to talk about child welfare, just a plethora of information. I mean, it's something for everyone. There's even some goofy sessions, and I call them goofy, that, nutrition or health or something that you don't get in normal conferences that are
yeah.
geared towards professional development. A lot of personal development. I wanted to put that in there
Mhm.
this year, and I'm very, very proud of Life Impact out of Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, with them Alan McCray, right?
Yes, Dr. Oh,
Alan
phenomenal
McCray.
workshop about to happen. And our agency is the only agency that does a certification program for practitioners.
Mm,
And we're going to increase our program. I didn't offer it in Puerto Rico, didn't offer it at Howard. We only offered it at a national conference, but we teach people the principles of motivational interviewing, family engagement strategies, culturally appropriate methods,
yeah,
participatory action, and research and evaluation, which is something that we're really infusing. How to evaluate your program so you can go places,
yeah,
fund development. So if you have no money, learn what it takes to build a program so you can try to go get money, whether
yeah,
it's from federal, state, foundation, or now this new process called crowdsourcing, which I really don't get into that much, but different ways of doing stuff, social media, because I did a survey even of our own affiliates, people who use social media. I don't use it that often, I didn't think, but most people are not using it, and that's not the way the world works. We have an app on from Kaleo apps. Anyone who's one of our affiliates gets it for free, and I'm shocked that only 2 affiliates got a $50,000 app development for free. Only
yeah,
2 of them took advantage of it.
yeah,
So a lot of things, but it's up to the people to take advantage of it, walk away, feel empowered, feel motivated, and get prepared. We're going to stay in Los Angeles the next 2 years after this. We're going to have our conference in Puerto Rico, and I'm calling out that we're going to go into nations this year. We use Puerto Rico to go in South America.
I will
Oh,
be
you
in
want to
Puerto
go to Puerto
Rico.
Rico?
Oh, yeah, man, bro,
You going to Puerto? Well, if you
bro.
guys want to go to Puerto Rico, we're going to do call for proposals for Puerto Rico probably in a couple of weeks.
All
So
right.
first come, first serve. It's either
Cool.
going to be in Ponce. I think it's going to be in Ponce this year. But we're
Okay.
going to have a great program over there. We're bringing in the Virgin Islands. So I guess what I'm trying to say with a lot of words, there's a lot of opportunities to grow personally and professionally and networking. Meaning Andre has been a blessing. I pray that he uses the platforms that we have to bless others, and that's what it's supposed to be about. So don't be a hoarder, and come out, share your information, share your talent.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for uh, being a part of this very first one, our pilot and our premiere Dad Talk Show. We will be meeting again next Tuesday. We have Kenneth Braswell. He's the executive director of Fathers Incorporated, and he has this campaign called Save Our Sons Night. It's going to be held February 6th. If you would like more information on that, go to www.saveoursonsnight.com. You get more information on that. You'll get more information about Fathers Incorporated and Mr. Kenneth Braswell, who will be with us Tuesday, the 20th, January 20th at 7 p.m. Bro, I thank you so much for being a part of this, and I thank you for your work and everything that you're doing to equip organizations like mine to do what we do and strive to do to help fathers and families in general. So I really appreciate your work, and I appreciate you being here today on the show.
I appreciate you, and like Def Comedy Jam. Peace.
Peace out. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, and make sure that you share this video with everybody that you can on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever it is. All right. Until next Tuesday or the 20th, I'm Andre D. Harrison. God bless, and see you then.